Hello guys, my name is NaTo. Today we have another video. This time it is yet another video for Play.gg. Today we'll be taking a look at the 3 players that I think are the top candidates for filling out the last spot on the Astralis roster. Enjoy. One of the 3 is Bo from Astralis Talent, a player who has just come into the team and has been performing very well. A little bit of backstory about Bo for those who don't know. He qualified to FPL at, I believe, the age of 15. He actually played really well, but he got removed for having a VAC banned account. He later proved that it was a Smurf account that he had sold, and that was the one that got VAC banned, so he has now been sort of cleared and is able to play in tournaments again. I have decided to start this video by showing you Bro instead of one of the 2 other players, as I think Bro is probably the worst option for Astralis currently. That said, I don't think Bro is a bad player, but in terms of his role and also his way of playing, he seems like a much more lurk type passive player than the other 2, and it's something that I think exactly Astralis don't need. Bro has been extremely impressive statistically as of late, and in this overpass match he gets more than 30 kills and over a rating of 2. It is extremely hard to explain how I feel about Bro, but let me try anyway. Bro in this match had a very good baseline, as in he had a pretty good level overall, but there was not any round in particular that impressed me. On the T side, he mostly just took short, which is obviously his job, and it felt like because he was playing against an academy team, they just kept running into him and he was just holding angles. When he and his team were going onto bomb sites, it was never Bro going first. He was never the one creating the space, and so he had sort of all the tools to get a very good statistical performance. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad player, because he's very clearly not, and I'm not saying he's selfish either, but Astralis already have massive role clashes in terms of way too many passive players, and bringing in Bro would only make that problem worse. Bro is a talented individual with a great aim and a playstyle and skill set that suits the academy leagues. I do think though he has some growing up to do before he can take on the tier 1 scene, and him being the 4th highest rated member on his team at the RMR adds to that. I want to bring in this round as an example to back up my claim that I think Bro is too passive and probably needs a little bit more maturing before he's ready for the tier 1 scene. In this round he's playing Rain and he's not really checking short, which in this position is kind of okay. But when his teammate dies from short, I really think Bro needs to peek here, and he doesn't. The guy escapes, and later on when Bro flashes for his teammate, the same guy will actually come and kill him as well. Our number 2 on the Astralis pickup list is Staehr from Sprout, a young player who's improved massively in record time. Comparing Staehr to Bro, we see sort of the same kind of passive playstyle at times, but we see a much more complete player. Staehr here molotovs in front of long and then even smokes it off, gets a flash and peeks on it. Now he's used 2 smokes for bait and they have achieved nothing. When you watch Staehr play, it just feels like watching a player who is in complete control. And a lot of the time, he is very calculated and makes very good decisions. But he can also do things like this, where he just rushes in and demolishes everyone. Again, comparing the 2, Staehr was elite when it came to utility usage, much better than Bro, and he knew exactly when and where to drop his nades. I think if you take Staehr and put him in a vacuum, a lot of his decisions would be on the more passive side than the aggressive side, but he's honestly really balanced and is just great at following the plan. Here is a round from Staehr, and I love how he plays it. It really is way beyond his years. He headshots Hector through the smoke here, and instead of like hunting the eco frags or something, when they actually execute onto B, he uses his utility well, and instead of actually rushing in as I just mentioned, he's super laid back, waits for the molotovs, and basically lets the CTs come to him. Then he gets 1 kill and clears the boost with a jump. Easy does it, the B side is his to take. It was super nice watching this demo and seeing some rounds with Staehr as the front runner creating the space, and other rounds where he is the guy trading. It seems he excels at both facets of the rifling game. If Astralis were to pick up a player with the idea of selling him on for massive profit later on, Staehr is definitely the guy they should go for. Astralis was and wants to be an elite team, and so for them the selling of a player is not the ultimate prize. And that leads us to this man. Probably some of you have this guy on your list of the most likely to be picked up, but honestly after watching the demos of the 3 players, this guy is now at the top for me. Don't get me wrong, Staehr is by far the best player of the 3, but Mista is the guy that most closely resembles Config both in personality and in profile. Having played myself with Config in his very early years, already 10 years ago, Mista actually reminds me a lot of a young Config. Let the record show that I'm not claiming that Mista is as good of a talent as Config was. In my opinion, Config is one of the brightest talents we've ever seen in the Danish scene, and it's mainly been sort of his own personality that has kept him back at times. Mista's playstyle and overall game is much less refined than Staehr's, but Mista has something that is very unique to a player like him. Config is aggressive, unpredictable, and confident, and I see those same traits in Mista. Coming in as a stand-in for Astralis, one of his biggest matches ever against the world's #1, I saw him constantly just take straight up raw aim fights against some of the best players on the planet. And while I would normally say that is a negative, for a player like Mista and for replacing someone like Config, this is absolutely a plus. One of the similarities that is super easy to draw between these two players, Mista and Config, is his ability to be comfortable in quite uncomfortable spots. In this round he's just standing in the middle of mid and the T's could honestly swing at any given time, but he just doesn't at all let it phase him and he seems very cool under the pressure, just like Config. I'm in no way claiming that Mista is a perfect player, but for Astralis he sort of might be. In this round, Astralis have long, mid and short, and it's only B that is a possibility anytime soon. And yet Mista drops his Molo too late. These are clear signs he's not quite ready yet for tier 1, but with the right support and the right coaching, I do believe it could propel him to be a sort of Config-esque player. He has the right combination of skill set and mindset, and as an added bonus, he is a player from their very own academy team, so they can get him for free. I have already a few times in the video brought up role clashes in Astralis, and if they want to fix that, which seems to be their biggest issue, Mista is the guy to get. I want to reiterate the fact that Staehr is the much better player and a much brighter talent than Mista, but Astralis don't need a Staehr, they need a Mista. You get me? There is merely a couple of rounds left, but this is the #1 round to watch in this entire video. In this round, we see a proactive Mista when his teammate goes down in B and his other teammate goes down top mid. He walks out mid with a Mach 10, catches a great timing and deals massive damage onto the feet of the Vitality players. When he realizes his time is up, he tries to fall back and takes out his Glock and takes down Magis, the B rotate. If Astralis could only get a kill or a trade on this B player, Mista would have picked up this round for his team. In my humble opinion, Mista should be the #1 target for Astralis to replace Config. Rumor has it that if you liked the video before leaving it, the smoke gods will also smile upon you. Thank you for watching ASMR.